Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. Today on the Develop Yourself podcast, I'll be talking with Ben, CEO of Lobi Software, and how we met was really interesting, actually. I wrote a post on LinkedIn, and it was about the shortcomings of using AI tools in coding. You kind of challenged me. Ben said, hey, maybe you should approach it this way, or you're making a common mistake. I got a little defensive, and then you slid in my DMs and said, hey, let's jump on a call. Yeah. And we did. And it was a great conversation. And I really appreciated that. It's very, very rare that you meet with somebody and then you disagree a little bit. And then it's like, hey, let's talk on the phone. And we did. And it was great. And then I've learned about you. You're a great thinker. You have a really interesting story. You are deep into retrieval augmented generation, which is really why I wanted to get you on the show to get your take on it. And I also want to just talk about how you got into software and then got into entrepreneurship, and then a bit about RAG and how it works in practice and why this is likely one of the most important and maybe profitable skills you can develop nowadays. But welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to talk to you for the first time, really face to face. We've talked on the phone and in DMs, like you said. I thrive on conflict. Yeah. So anyone I meet who I disagree with is immediately the first person I want to talk to. So we disagreed, and I think what was a smart way. So it was easy to reach out. As for my journey, it's very unconventional. I've only been in software a couple of years. I took a very long road to get here. Started out with a degree in audio engineering and spent some time in recording studios. Worked very long days doing that. And when I was burned out, would also manage restaurants, which is what I've done since I was about 16 years old. So I always kind of had this underpinning of restaurant management to pay the bills in the event something artistic broke me. And then I was spending a lot of time in recording studios on the side doing things like that, working, 16-hour days pretty much my whole life. And got out of that eventually, started a film production company that started with my audio background and kind of evolved into more knowledge about film and video, and did commercials, ran a commercial soundstage in Atlanta for a couple of years. Did some commercials there, did some indie projects for people out of California, little things like that. Hated it, absolutely hated it. It was completely burned out doing 16 to 18 hours a day. Started another company with a small army of dog walkers and pet sitters in Atlanta that I ran for about 7 years. We did really, really well with that, but kind of hit a ceiling, kind of maxed it out. Gave it to one of my sitters who couldn't afford to buy it, but promised to keep all our clients. So gave it to them and moved on and moved into software about a year later, and wish I had done it sooner. It's what I was born to do.
That's I've heard a lot of stories. That's got to be way up there.
That's about 10%.
So how'd you learn to code?
I went to a boot camp. I went the boot camp route. It was an at your own pace thing. It was very unstructured. There was some mentorship and guidance from third parties outside the organization. I owe a huge amount of what I know to my mentors who I met through that program. Yep. But really just, had a great curriculum, had a really what I believe to be sound and solid approach to building actual enterprise software, not just, local machine programs that run. And then when you get into an actual job, you're completely unprepared. It really prepared me for the actual job. And then I'm a learning obsessive. So I just did that the 5-6 hours a day that I had to do it to kind of get through the course, but then also did another 5 or 6 because that's the schedule I'm used to keeping and just couldn't get enough of it.
Gotcha. Man. Wow. Okay, what was the name of this program? This is probably bad for my business, but I have to know the name.
This was Bloom Tech, Bloom Institute of Technology. Tech. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've heard good stuff about them. I mean, I've heard good stuff, but any big boot camp, you're going to hear a lot of bad stuff too. It's just the nature of this industry.
There's good and bad, and it was a small program with small staff and all of the good and bad that comes with that too. But I mean, all I can say is my experience with it and what I learned from it, and it prepared me. I think it's like anything. If you take take things on with a good attitude, and you
Hmm.
embrace the grind, and you take responsibility for how well it prepares you, and you're accountable for what the end result is, I think you're going to get good results out of anything.
Yes, I would also say that you're the kind of person that I like. Just hearing your story, I'm like, you're the kind of guy I just see like you're going to succeed. Probably you had an entrepreneurial spirit. You have like a background in that. You seem like you're a hard worker. Maybe beyond what the normal average person would ever do. Just those two things alone let me know like, okay, you're kind of like I would cherry pick a guy like you to have in Parsity, for example, as a success story because I'd know that you'd probably be successful.
Those
You know.
things are true beyond the bounds of what's healthy for most people. So, it's
Yeah,
a
I feel
constant
you.
grind as to finding that balance between how hard you can work without going over the top. But so far, so good, man. I've been blessed.
Seriously. So now you're CEO of a software company
Yes,
and
sir.
you're building a very specific type of product. It sounds like this is what led us to a lot of the conversations we've had recently. We've talked a lot about RAG, and I've talked a lot about that on the show. But really briefly, can you tell people like what is RAG? RAG.
Yeah. So very briefly, RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's kind of the AI methodology that's really in vogue right now for a lot of enterprises. A lot of enterprises have existing knowledge bases or existing data sources, or a lot of times digitized or not, and they want
Hmm.
to make those things more searchable so that they can implement some AI strategies for finding that information quicker than they're accustomed to finding it and using it in
Yep.
some way in their system. And it's really as simple as it sounds. You are generating a response from some kind of AI LLM with information that you have retrieved to augment that response.
That's a really succinct answer. I love that. We're both building with this. I'm at the. You've had more experience than me at this point. I was at calling you asking for your advice recently, and I've been building with it, like building for a couple AI startups in San Francisco, and
Yeah,
it feels like this is the use case that actually makes sense for most
yeah,
companies. Now, I don't know if I'm being super biased or anything like that, or maybe
yeah.
you are too, but what's your take on this? Like, why we've heard so much AI hype, and it's all been around mostly for developers. We think, oh, code generation, or like just weird use cases like, oh, now there's AI in Notion or your email. I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Why do you think that enterprises have like been really quick to adopt RAG? And do you think that this like really is going to be like potentially the use case for AI going forward?
Yeah, I think this going forward, it's hard to say, but this is the frontier right now, and I think it should be. I think you're spot on. I think the reason is most simply put because it's the easiest thing to get started with that actually impacts a company's bottom line. When you're talking about RAG, you're talking about the one thing AI is most good at, which is taking a massive amount of information that no human can possibly go through, going through it automatically, and generating intelligent, informed, dynamic responses, no matter how vague or specific that information may be. And that's something humans have been doing for a long time and wishing for a long time. In every business I've ever been a part of run, it's all that menial labor that hurts your bottom line, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like if we could just free these people from these menial tasks that a robot could do, we would make a lot more money and free those people up to do other things, or even shrink our workforce, or some of the other things that you're seeing.
Yeah,
It's scary to say, but it's
yeah,
real.
but yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. And repurposing those teams into more tasks that impact your bottom line, and getting them away from those menial tasks that are really just costs on your P&L sheets, is a big deal for companies. And it's easy to get started, and it gets powerful really quick. And it's instant gratification. It's so quick to
Yep.
see how powerful it is for people who aren't technical. And I think that's the reason it's getting embraced as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I'm curious, what is the stuff you're doing now? Like, if you can talk a little bit about what you're actually building with
Yeah.
RAG,
I
if
have to
that's
be
possible.
I have to be careful.
Okay.
Well, it's a product for various facilities right now within the healthcare industry.
Okay.
Um, it is going to eventually expand to other industries as well, but right now, it very simply put, it's what we've already talked about with RAG, which is, hey, we have these massive documents that we can't memorize or read or even understand half the time or interpret. That's another power of
Hmm.
RAG and an LLM, is the interpretation of that information.
That's
And
right.
we
Yeah.
need to find it quicker, and we need to show people who don't know this information or don't even know how to look for it or don't even know where these documents exist. We need to get that in their hands faster so that they can better do their jobs. And
Hmm.
what I can be a little specific about that's unique is in my particular implementation and what we're building, you learn very quickly the difference between RAG in an academic sense and RAG in an enterprise sense, because one of the things we had to do early on that really threw a curveball in our initial approach, which was very naive, what's called naive RAG,
Yeah.
was maintain some structural integrity within these documents and have references and have links that people could click to and easily access the source document where that information was. So starting
I've done
to
this. Hmm.
chunk and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with some of this terminology, but
Yeah.
starting to get that information in the database in a way that allowed you to actually retrieve it in a way that not only is just raw, naive retrieval, but is very intentional retrieval in a way that benefits your use case so that you can turn around and use that information to accomplish a business goal is where RAG starts to get very complicated and also way more powerful than any of us really even fully understand right now so far.
And there's no real experts. Is what I've noticed too. I haven't met any like, oh yeah, I've got this figured out, and here's the exact way you should build this together. It's not like
Yeah.
somebody that like a SQL expert or like React or something like that. There's tons of consultants for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
In this field, it's kind of like you're just figuring out as you go along. Now, what I'd like to do is if you can take us like through like 0 to 1, like 'cause I think a lot of people have heard us say RAG a lot, and I think they're not really probably understanding like what it is we're talking about. Like, talk about how you get information into a system that is that can support RAG, support retrieval augmented generation.
Sure. Without getting, how technical do you want me to get? I don't know who your
Let's
audience
let's
is.
go kind of like, yeah. This audience spans the people that are really new to code to people that are like more senior. But I think
Yeah.
this is so new that most people don't even get the idea of like, you have a document and how does it, and first getting the document and then putting it into a specific database
Yeah.
and then having to use that database and then feed it to a large language model.
Yeah. So a lot of the knowledge bases people already have are just digital documents. They're PDFs, they're spreadsheets, they're things like this. The goal really is to take this information that may already be digital or not. Hopefully you're working with a digital knowledge base already, taking some of that information and breaking it into parts in a way that is, well, let me start at the beginning. You're going to take that raw text that's parsed from that PDF and you're going to create what's called an embedding. That's going to be you converting that text into some algebraic meaning, some array of number patterns, to put it simply, that are going to get stored that kind of represent the lexical or semantic meaning of this text. It's
Hmm.
going to be stored mathematically, and you're going to break each part of that text as vectors that gets translated to vectors along the way into smaller pieces that are more easily searchable, that are more easily assembled after the fact once you do search and retrieve them. But in essence, you're creating small mathematical chunks that represent the meaning of that text that are searchable by uh, linear algebraic algorithms that AI uses to discern meaning.
It's
I don't know
pretty
how
good.
good or bad that
I mean,
explanation is.
that's pretty good. I could give a short example too of like what I'm building, which is not really private at all. So I'm at a company doing TikTok influencer discovery, right? And so we'll go scrape the web or find TikTok influencers, and we'll look at them, do some visual recognition using AI as well, and then we'll say this person is a blonde-haired woman that makes content about children. She lives in Argentina, and she posts about this frequently. And we did this for hundreds of thousands of people, or maybe a million at some point. Now we've done what you said, same idea. We've
Yep.
taken this text data And now we've said now we're going to store this in this vector database as numbers, as this embedding full of numbers, and we'll attach some metadata to it too, like the person's name, right?
Yep.
And then now when you search, you say, I want a blonde-haired person in Argentina. If you try to do that in in TikTok, you're not going to get much. If you try to do it in Google, you're going to get even less. It's going to be just useless. If you try to do it in ChatGPT, same thing. So now we have this proprietary data, and you can search it. We say, boom, here's that woman you were searching for, or here's 5 women that are similar to this one that you were searching for, based on how we've like chunked them up and stored them in this vector database. And that
Yep.
is RAG essentially. Now it gets way more complicated, obviously, because me and you are dealing with a lot of the other things. But how did you learn this? I learned this on the job because I kind of had to, and I was working with somebody that was way smarter, that had done this before. He was like, these are like PhD level people that knew about AI long before AI became cool. How did you pick this up?
The same, by total accident. I had
Okay.
I had a friend who worked in the industry who's become my partner on the project, and
Cool.
basically they were basically asking me what I do, and I was communicating it to hey, we take problems that businesses have and solve them. Like give me an example of a problem you have, and let's talk about it. And as she started laying out a scenario in their industry, I was like, man, this is like a very simple problem to solve on its surface, because it was this problem of like, we are governed by way more information than we can handle, and I don't know how to search it, I don't know how to get it fast. And for me it was like, hey, tech can solve this. And she didn't really believe me. It was like,
Mm.
tech can't do this. People have to do this because it's so specific, there are so many rules. So I literally just went in ChatGPT, went and created a custom GPT, gave it some very specific instructions, uh, but also bare minimum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And took one of the documents that she had, put it in the built-in knowledge base inside of ChatGPT, just to show her in a
Okay.
period of 2 hours. Hey,
Oh, okay. Cool.
let's give it
Yeah.
some instructions. Let's give it this document. Hey, here's a question that only this document can answer. And for her to watch the LLM spit that out was like a light bulb for her, where it was like, holy shit, like this is incredible. This is real.
That's
And
cool.
it showed me very quickly that AI was a use case for this. I had already built some things with AI and played around with the OpenAI API and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and was starting to
Yep.
work with some of those things, chatbots and stuff like that. But as I explored this use case, I stumbled across RAG and was like, this is a picture perfect use case for
Mm-hmm.
this process. This is what it was made for, exactly.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I've done this for my own personal life too. I'm on my kid's school board, and I'm the parliamentarian. And there's all these rules that I have to know that I'm terrible at this stuff. And I'm like, there's no
Yep.
way I can commit all this to memory. The other woman had done it for like 9 years, and so I did the same thing. I dumped all that information, all the documents, the bylaws, into a custom GPT, and I was thinking about making a little bit of a RAG, app around it too, maybe if I
Yeah.
feel like it. And now I can like look up things in meetings. I'm like, okay, here's the bylaw that tells me this. Like, what do we do for budget? All this stuff. And yeah, it's really useful for this
Yep.
kind of thing when we have to summarize tons and tons of information. So I know people are listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I should do RAG. What is the tech stack you're using? Because I don't think I know exactly the tech stack you're using, but I'm curious, what is the tech stack you're using to do this,
I
to build these apps?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who definitely believes in a different or near different tech stack for every product. It's like best
Okay.
tool. I think
Yeah.
the best tools I've found for that. I'm using a Next.js front end for the user interface. I'm using a Nest.js backend, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, but it's a really powerful Node Express wrapper framework
Yep.
for the API layer. And I'm using
Hmm.
Fast API and Python on the business backend or whatever, the RA, to do all the RAG stuff, um,
Okay.
is what I'm using. And it's really as simple as that. It's a pretty simple stack. But then I'm using Pinecone for the vector database. So the
Okay.
RAG right now is really industry standard. There are several very like clear leaders in the space right now. That'll
Hmm.
change, but right now that's the case. So that's what I'm using.
Pinecone, Quadrant, I
Yep.
think Weaviate,
Yep.
maybe. I forget. And
Yep.
those are the ones I'm familiar with. I've
Yep.
used 2 of those 3 so far.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to use Quadrant and Pinecone. I'm actually even using a simpler version. I'm using just TypeScript like Next.js and
Yep.
Quadrant, and that's
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
at this point. Really, really bare bones.
Yep.
And we have like a whole Python layer too for the other like visual extraction. But
Yep.
yeah, I think that, and that may surprise people. They may be thinking, what? And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to like go get a machine learning engineering course or anything like that. You can do a lot
No.
of really cool stuff with full stack software development skills that you already have.
Yeah, I think that's the other answer to what you asked earlier about why it's so popular is because the learning curve is the learning curve to get started is very low.
Yep.
Because it's like you said, you can do it in any language. You don't have to have Python. We chose that because we're planning on extending pretty quickly to the point that we have some transformations and reads that need that kind of stack.
Hmm.
But a lot of people don't. And really under the hood, it's Pinecone and OpenAI's API. It's really the
Yeah.
heavy lifting is done by the people who have built these tools. They can know all the math. We don't have to.
Exactly. I met a guy. I shouldn't even say this. This guy said he was going to build his own LLM,
Yeah.
um, and
Why?
train it on billions of parameters.
Why?
And I'm like, well, yeah.
Why?
What? Who are you going to compete with, my friend?
Yeah.
OpenAI's won. Anthropic, they've won. They let them play the trillionaire
Yeah.
fight out there. In the headlines, we're not going to win that. So yeah, it
Yep.
was kind of silly. So I think, yeah, we already have a good commercial options right now. Now it's more
Yep.
about how do we build on top of them. And I feel like a lot of developers are late to the party. I feel like for once in my career, I feel like I'm really early to a really, really big thing.
Yeah.
This almost feels like, and I'm trying to think of the last time I felt like I really missed something. And I think it was probably with the revolution of like cloud and maybe React was the last
Yeah.
time I felt like I really missed the boat. And this time I'm like, finally here. And my impression though is most developers have no clue about this stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what is your experience?
The same. And this is the boat. You're right. This is the AI use case that's a sure thing, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of AI. You touched on some of it earlier, code generation and things like that, that are very uh, popular ideas because of confirmation bias, and people very badly want those things to be true because some of those things are so expensive. They're like, if we can offload this, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Some of those things
Yep.
I don't believe very strongly in. RAG is here and it's here to stay, and it's going to make a huge impact for companies. If you're not learning this yet, you better start because it's coming in a big way.
Yeah, and I hate to sound like some salesy guy because I do want to
Yeah.
actually do a course on this, like a whole program, and
Yep.
have you as one of the guest speakers, as a matter of fact. But like, this is like one of those things. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I want to tell everybody because I'm like, this is the cool thing. And I'm in San Francisco Bay Area, and I feel like every freaking AI startup that hits me up is doing some version of this. Now, some are very, very complex, and some are less so.
Yep.
And I'm doing a fairly complex version of this now. So there's a lot under the hood, like you've said. Before I let you go, because this is another thing I'm genuinely curious about too. You're an entrepreneur
Yes,
beyond
sir.
knowing all this and learning on the side. And which
Sure.
is super impressive. And where do you find customers? Because this is such a new technology and you're not in what I consider like a big tech hub. How are you finding people and saying, I'm charging you for this technology that you probably don't really understand that's going to solve a problem for you? What does that look like?
It's a sales pitch. Because you're right. I'm about
Okay.
an hour west of Atlanta. So Atlanta's a tech hub, but I'm not connect. I'm not
That's right.
going out to dinner and bars and meeting people in Atlanta, every night.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it is a sales pitch. Now we also don't only do AI. We build all kinds of software for all kinds of people.
Okay.
So
Sure.
we do other things too. I'm building a mobile app right now for a client that's pretty uh not simple, but it's a mobile app. It's what we're used to.
Sure.
It's not AI. But it's really a sales pitch. It's really, yeah, you have to love it. You have to know how to communicate it in terms that aren't specific to a tech audience. And you got to find companies with problems, and
Hmm.
you got to walk in the door with a solution to a problem they have. And sometimes people are soliciting for that, but more often it's the scenario I described with this other person who became my client, which is just like, tell me about a problem you have. Okay, I can solve that. And here's how, and when they
Hmm.
don't believe it, show them how as fast as you can and as simply as you can, and prove it to them because they're going to have to see it to believe it, especially in the case of AI, because there's so much
Oh yeah.
skepticism, there's so much fear. How much of this is hype and how much of it is not? If you can if you
Yep.
can walk into the door of a company, so to speak, and say, I know you have this problem. I know how to solve it and let me show you what that looks like, then that's a very good step in the right direction. It's very hard to get people to pull money out of their pockets and give it to you, but
Hmm.
that's how it has to start, is solving their problems and showing them that you actually can do that and showing them you can do it quickly. One of the business differentiators for us is MVPs in 30 days. Whatever you have, whatever you do, we're gonna help you scope out an MVP that can be built in 30 days, and in 30 days you're gonna be up and running and generating revenue. And if and that's been big for me so far, is
That's
so much
awesome.
of our competition is, well, it's going to take 5 to 8 months and 60 grand, and software developers have been scamming people for a long time. They sit around, they do nothing for 6 of those months. I hate to say it on a but it's
Uh,
true. As
it's
a
true.
newcomer,
It's
it's
true.
true. They sit around for 6 months, they take your money, they don't do anything, and then the last 2 months they push it out the door anyway. And if someone's working like
I've
that, they
seen this
don't
happen.
threaten. Yeah, oh, for 100%. I
Yeah.
worked with a company that had a legacy product that they went through 5 different teams that did that. Um,
Yep.
that's the key though. Just care about people, care about the problems they have, and come in with creative solutions about how to solve them. Don't give them work to do. Don't tell them how they need to solve their problems, or ask them how they need. Tell them what they can do.
I like that, and probably don't lead off with the tech either. I like how you say, like,
No.
what's a problem you need to solve? Like,
So,
because I've seen this a lot when I first did I've done some freelancing throughout the years too, and I was naive and I was like using buzzwords. I realized they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. They don't care
no,
if I'm using React
no.
or Rag. They don't want to know either. They're like, I don't know what the hell you're saying.
Nope. They
So that was a big
the
learning
longer
experience for
you
me.
the longer you can keep anyone from hearing you say anything technical, the better. If I can get through the entire life of a project and never use a tech term, that's like a perfect scenario.
Yeah,
Because they don't care. They don't want to, and they
uh,
shouldn't. They
they don't
shouldn't want
care.
to care. Yeah.
Yeah,
I always
I
tell
feel you on
people
that. All right.
I get a lot of clients who come in and say they've worked with tech teams before, they start trying to
Hmm.
communicate in tech terms. And I tell them immediately right off the bat, hey, translating your business language into tech language is my job. I want you talking to me in the terms that your business uses. Give me your domain language. Let me worry about how to translate that to tech. That's a big thing too.
Dude, that's that you are spot on that. That's a super important one. That's some great nuggets. Before I let you go, I want to get a couple hot takes from you real quick.
Sure. I got those.
Cool. I bet you do. Um, Boot camp or self-taught?
Self-taught. I believe very strongly, I won't go on and on about it, but I believe very strongly, and you'll see, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will see me ranting and raving and arguing with people about this all day. I think every single thing you need to learn to do this job right now, you can learn for free or very, very cheap on your own, if you have the discipline and self-motivation to do that. Boot camps are way too expensive if you can summon the structure and discipline for yourself.
I wouldn't disagree with you either, but this is not my hot take time, so I'm going to refrain from my hot
Yeah,
takes.
self-taught.
TypeScript or JavaScript?
JavaScript. I think that, so I will delineate. I think that if you
Okay.
are working with a team, TypeScript is really valuable. I use TypeScript on the back end
Hmm.
for my API layers and things like that. When I'm building on the front end, I use JavaScript. To me, the more
I
velocity
like
you
that.
can steal, the better. And TypeScript will slow you down so much. And I heard it said by one of my mentors best. TypeScript is for developers and JavaScript is for users. All the TypeScript you write is going to compile down to JavaScript at the end of the day anyway. Users do not care. If you're working by yourself, do not use TypeScript. Don't use it. It'll slow you down. It's all about getting it built fast and out the door. And then if you want to convert it to TypeScript when you bring on a team, do that. But I always start with JavaScript unless I have a real damn good reason to go with TypeScript.
And you can do it incrementally too. It's not all or nothing, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of people forget. Like you can do a little bit of both. I
Yep.
like your take, and that was my take for a while too. Like front end, I really don't want to add types. Back end, I feel like I probably need to add types now. I'm
Yep.
using Next.js, and I feel like I'm just kind of locked into using TypeScript everywhere now. But
Yep.
yeah, I've definitely gone through type gymnastics like everybody,
Yep.
which is always a pain.
Yep.
All right.
I am not a social media guy. I deleted all my social media accounts a long time ago. I think that here's my hot take on this. someone needs to come out with a platform that puts LinkedIn out of business, because right now it's a dinosaur. It's doing nothing for
uh,
anyone that it claims to be doing. It's not finding
yeah.
anyone work. It's not providing any networking on any real level. Someone needs to
Yep.
come in and replace LinkedIn. Now, if people have found a way to use X for that, that's great. Or other social media platforms. But I think the person who invents the next job search platform that solves the problems LinkedIn has is going to be very, very rich. It ain't going to be me. I don't have time or desire, but someone should do that. I'm putting it out there.
I feel
Someone
you,
do it.
man.
LinkedIn is trash.
I used to love it too. Like I still kind of like it, but I'm not into it like I used to be, because I used to actually meet people and make genuine connections, like meeting you. Like this
Yeah.
kind of thing happened more
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
just a year ago. And then I think, what the hell happened recently? And a lot of bigger creators are leaving the platform, I noticed, for that very reason. Because like, I'm just talking into a void now, and it's just like corporations have taken it over, and you
Yep.
can't find a job. It's a social media site that's like kind of like a job site that you got to treat like a social media site in order to find work. It's the strangest way
Yeah.
of finding jobs I could imagine. Like, so it's like Instagram for jobs. It's
Yeah.
just super weird.
It's ripe
Yeah.
for replacement.
Last one, prediction for the next year.
Yeah.
Are we cooked in the industry, or do you see things taking a turn?
No, some people are cooked. So you're talking about in terms of employment and layoffs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
long
Yeah. Yep.
conversation. I think my personal belief, and this is from someone who's new, from someone who wasn't here for when this happened, so it's purely anecdotal. But my
Mm-hmm.
experience
Sure.
as an outsider, who's also worked with dev teams in the past as an outsider, my experience is that a lot of people snuck into this industry when it was new, who don't have the work ethic to sustain a career in this industry, both companies and individuals. And I think those people are cooked, because I think there is a rude awakening coming for people who are phoning it in, and the people who work their asses off and really deliver and really charge fair rates in 2025 with the advent of things like AI assist and stuff like that. I think those people are going to dominate and own this industry. And I think that it's very true that one developer is going to be able to do what two or three or five or eventually 10 used to be able to do. And in that sense, a lot of people are cooked, but the people who mean it and love it and live and breathe it and know how to stay ahead of the curve, they are going to reap the rewards of that rude awakening. They're going to be the people that inherit all of the fallout and turn it around and really start doing some cool new things that have never been done before.
I'm seeing, I don't know if I agree with all that, but I agree with a lot of what you're saying,
Yeah.
especially the idea that, remember those day in the life TikToks where people like, I
No,
go
I
to an
told you I'm not
office
a
and I
social
drink a
media guy. Tell
kombucha. Okay.
it.
Anyway, well, there was a whole thing on people
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I drink a coffee at work and I get paid $400K a year. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like, yeah. And this attracted a lot of people. Like at Parsi, that's one of the things we are a mentorship program. You could almost call it a boot camp, but it's a mentorship program for people that want to get in the industry. And one of the things we always look for is like, if you're just looking for a way to like just make money, there's a ton of ways to make money.
Yeah,
If you don't find some intrinsic joy in this,
yeah,
you're likely not going to do well. I've yet to meet somebody that I respect or that I think is really good at what they do that's like, I don't like programming. It's like,
yeah.
you kind of have to like it. Like if you don't like this stuff, you're not going to do well. And if you're only in it for the money, there was a point when people were getting like crazy amounts of money for learning React. There was like that little tiny window.
Yeah.
And I do think that a lot of those people are going to find themselves in a rude awakening, if I'm being completely honest. And
Yeah.
that's maybe a mean take, but I do see that as reality.
And you got to start thinking like businesses think. If all you can do is sit down and take instructions and write code, then you're done for.
Oh yeah.
You have to start
That's a big thing.
making that jump to business domain knowledge and do more than just write code, because those days are coming to an end quick.
I do feel like that. Yeah, that's my job has dramatically changed over the years from actually being kind of like a task taker.
Yeah.
Like, here's like a nice little report of what you're going to do, to being like, let's all figure out what we're building, how we're going to build it, and then you also are going to build it. So now I spend a lot of time translating tech requirements or talking to the CEOs at the company or people that are non-technical and figure out what are we actually going to do. And I think that's what a lot of developers are feeling, because the teams are getting smaller. They're getting rid of middle management in big tech firms. They're still hiring lots of developers at a lot of places, but they are expecting you to do more than just write code, like you've said. Interesting time, super interesting time in many ways.
And I think it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs to enter this space, because there is a big opportunity right now to go in and compete with companies much larger than you can compete with in any other industry. And I think the environment is very rich for that right now. So if you're an entrepreneur looking to get into something really exciting and fun and crazy, this is an option, because I think entrepreneurs are going to make a big dent in the tech landscape in the next few years here.
I love what you're saying. I love this conversation, man. Thanks for keeping it real. Yeah, for sure. And where can people find you online? Get some more of your hot takes.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Ben Johnson. You can follow me on LinkedIn if you want to.
Be in the show notes as well.
I get closer to getting banned from LinkedIn every single day. So if you want to see somebody get banned in real time, follow me on there. But then you can find me on my website at lobesoftware.com as well.
Cool. That'll be in the show notes too.
I float around, and eventually we'll have a podcast coming. It's going to be called the Panic Loop Podcast. We'll probably start that up in the next 6 to 9 months. We'll see how that goes. So keep an eye on that too.
Sweet. Yeah. Let me know. I'd love to help you promote it. Maybe even be a guest. I don't know.
Absolutely. We will return the favor.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. If you're serious about switching careers and becoming a software developer and building complex software and want to work directly with me and my team, go to parsity.io. And if you want more information, feel free to schedule a chat by just clicking the link in the show notes. See you next week.